In this lesson, we're going to talk about arrays. So arrays are like a variable where that contains multiple values, multiple items, or it can only just contain one item. So this is a typical array that we've declared, and it's going to only hold this one item at the time. If we console log it out, and if we want to actually access that one item, all we have to do is do my array, and arrays start at 0, so the first item in the array is going to be item 0. If we want to specify that, then we would just type my array 0. So just go back out and show you what's going to happen here within the console. So first, the first line there where we're consoling logging out, we're logging out that entire array. And then the second line, we're actually selecting a particular value from the array. Now there's several different ways in order to declare an array. You can do it with the way that we just did that, where you do an array literal, or you could declare an array as an array constructor. So you could do something like this, where you could do my new array equals new array, and from here we can just type in 1. And then we'll just do the same thing out here. Go back out, refresh the page, and we see that it does the exact same thing. So sometimes, so if you do see it output in different ways, this is just a way of syntax. The first one is a literal, the second one is a constructor format for declaring arrays. If you want to add a new item into the array, all you would have to do is my array, and what we do is we push items into the array. So this is going to add a second item, 2, into the array. And now when I console log the array, and if I console log out that item in the array, that should output all of that information here into their console. So now we can see that array is beginning to expand. We've got 2 items in the array, and we can access that second item, doing it in that type of format. And much like we see the value here, we can also access the different items with a quote around it. And I believe this should still work. So it should output the exact same thing. So just different ways to access it. So if you do see it with the quote around it, that's going to be the same thing. It's going to allow us to access through the normal item way. So also with arrays, there's also what's called objects. So they work in a similar fashion, where we would declare, would set up an object in this format. So similar to an array, it contains values, but an object is going to contain multiple values. They're called paired values. So there's always an identifier and then a value. So there's always a property and value. They're always paired together, unlike an array where you can just have the one. By default, the key for the array is 0. So it's being assigned to 0 by default, so we don't actually have to have a key name for it. We can access the items in the array, but objects, we do need to have a name for it. And then similarly, we can console log out objects. So much like with the arrays where we can we can do the quotes around it, or we can just do a dot notation. And this will become more evident which ones to use as you progress with JavaScript. There might be cases where you need to use the bracketed version or the dot notation. So either way will return the same result. Either way, we're going to get John back here. And also, just if you notice here that when we are declaring values in objects and arrays, if they're strings, we put the quotes around them, and if they're not strings, then we can just put the numeric value. So we can just put a numeric value like that, and we can add indefinite numbers and items into objects and arrays. And we can see here that with the number 20, now our array got bigger, and here with we're returning those object values, so we're just returning that first name as object, and it's returning that exact same content. So again, it doesn't matter if we're doing a dot name or a bracket name, it's going to return back that item within the object that's identified, that value.